Clevinger, the writer and creator at Being Fibro Mom, the blog that's all about learning how to thrive the family life while living with fibromyalgia. This is the co-host of, this is Donna Birch, the co-host for a Fibro Live Today's show. She is the writer and creator at fedupwithfatigue.com. Today's topic is going to be all about CBD oil, all about what is it, how does it help with fibromyalgia, where can you buy it, how do you know how to get the good stuff as opposed to the not good, so good stuff, and a lot of this information. Donna is going to head up the show. I am going to post Donna's article in the links before I forget, in the comments, the link in the comments. Hi, Donna. How are you?
Hey, Brandi. How are you?
I'm well. I am so stuffed from lunch. So let's go ahead and just jump into this. So what would you like to cover first, Donna?
All right. So let's cover some basics, because I'm sure there are some people out there that who don't know what CBD oil is. And I am getting a tad bit of an echo, just to let you know. So CBD oil, CBD is actually short for cannabidiol oil. And what cannabidiol is it's a endocannabinoid that comes from the cannabis plant. And so most people are probably familiar with THC, which is the active ingredient in the cannabis plant that causes you to feel high. Well, CBD is also an endocannabinoid. But it actually has the exact opposite effect. It kind of mitigates the effect of THC and makes it so that you don't get so high. So what has happened over the last few years is that there's this huge trend for CBD hemp oil. I shouldn't say hemp oil, actually, just CBD oil in general. Because there's some anecdotal evidence that CBD may help with pain relief. And so people have just kind of been gravitating towards that, particularly those who they may feel uncomfortable with using regular cannabis that has THC. Maybe they don't want the high or whatever. As far as research is concerned at this point, we don't really have a lot of research because of the federal government and the restrictions they put on research in cannabis. There just haven't really been that many studies looking at CBD on its own, looking at CBD for fibromyalgia. All of that is kind of uncharted territory at this point. What we do have is we have a lot of people with fibromyalgia who are saying that they are feeling benefits from using CBD oil. One of the things I wanted to say is that, you know, I look at CBD as just like every other kind of treatment for fibromyalgia. It works for some people, it doesn't work for others. So this is like the latest and greatest thing, but it's not going to work for everybody.
Well, can I pause you real quick? What is the difference between hemp CBD oil and marijuana CBD oil?
Okay, that was the exact topic I was going to next.
Oh, good.
So actually, there are two different kinds of CBD oil. There is a CBD oil that's made from the hemp plant, which is actually just a variety of the cannabis plant. So CBD oil, both kinds actually originate from the cannabis plant. It's just a matter of, did it come from a hemp plant or did it come from a marijuana plant? So the hemp plant CBD oil is what you can buy that online. The companies, they profess that it's legal in all 50 states. Technically, that's not true, but we'll get into that maybe a little bit later on. So you can buy that online, you can find it in convenience stores, you can find it in natural food stores and all of those kinds of places. Then there's what I term real CBD oil. Real CBD oil is made from marijuana. So it still is mainly just CBD, but it also has traces of THC and other endocannabinoids. I hate that word. Too many syllables. So anyway, you would get that from like a dispensary in a state where marijuana is legal. Now, so over the years, I've interviewed various people that are kind of experts in cannabis, and what they all consistently tell me is this: they say, "Look, if you can get access to a marijuana-based CBD oil, like from a dispensary, always go with that because that's going to it's just much more potent, it's much more powerful. It has all of those other endocannabinoids in it. Got it that time. um, and it just has a lot. It has, because it has all of those chemicals in there. It just works better. And when I say chemicals, I mean natural compounds, natural chemicals. It just seems to work better. It has more healing benefits to be able to use that marijuana-based CBD. However, we all know that there are a lot of states in the U.S. that do not have cannabis laws yet, legalizing certain aspects of cannabis. So for those people, hemp CBD oil, which you can buy online, is an option. Like I said, it's likely not going to be as effective as what you could buy at a dispensary, but for some people it works. Some people get benefits from it. Before I had my medical marijuana license, I actually started with hemp CBD oil, and I had some success with it. And then I later graduated to get my medical marijuana license, so I don't really use the hemp products much anymore. So that's one of the things I wanted to cover, the difference.
Well, how have you been doing with it? Has it been working for you personally?
So on the hemp CBD oil, I had a pretty good run with it for, I don't know, probably a few months up to a year, and it seemed to work pretty well on reducing pain, particularly nerve pain, which is tough, really tough to treat. Normally they're giving you gabapentin and that kind of thing for that. Yeah. But what happened is at some point it stopped working for me. I'm not really clear on why it stopped working for pain. I've gotten a couple of bottles since then and retried it. That just seems to be something weird that happens with me. It's not unusual for treatments to stop working for me for some reason.
Is it like your body's just so used to it that you have to, do you think maybe if you went to something else and you went back to CBD oil, or it just not working out?
It's just not working out. Now, a few months ago, I tried a different brand. It was called Liberty Elixir. And that was done through a review that I did for the Chronic Illness Bloggers Network. Mm-hmm. And their product, Liberty Elixir, which I can't remember the milligrams on it, but it was the one that has the higher milligrams. That actually worked really well for sleep. It did nothing for my pain, but it would help me sleep through the night, which is, of course, that's gold.
And that was 1,000 milligrams. And the article that Donna wrote about the elixir that she's talking about, I put in the comments below so you can read more about it.
Yeah, it was good stuff. So, but again, it didn't do anything for pain relief. It was strictly, for some reason, it was strictly just good for sleep. And that in itself was odd because that wasn't like my intent. I wasn't intending to get better sleep, but I wasn't actually the only one that had that effect. Julie Ryan from Counting My Spoon, she also had that effect. She's still taking it for sleep. I'm not, just because I've got so many other things that I have to pay for as far as treatment. I'm just not able to pay for everything. So anyway, so we have a lot of people. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We have a question from someone.
Yeah.
She says, I'm using Green Road CBD oil, 250 milligrams. Directions say place 1 to 3 drops under tongue. So is 1 drop 250 milligrams? Is 2 drops 500 milligrams? I feel like I could drink the whole bottle and feel nothing different. It must be just hemp.
Yeah. So what I would say to her, my advice to her would be to actually contact the company and ask them for them to give you directions on how many milligrams is contained in 1 drop, and then you can formulate your dose from there. because the problem with it is all of these companies have different dosing, different milligram strengths in their bottle. They, have different dosing instructions and that kind of thing. And you really can't make a blanket statement. It just kind of depends on the company. And that kind of segues into what we're going to go into today on how do you find a good hemp CBD oil product. And so one of the things I wanted to that I addressed in the article is that it really is, when you're looking for hemp CBD oil, it really is a buyer beware situation. There's absolutely no regulation on hemp CBD oil at all. Our government, the U.S. government, treats it at this point as a nutritional supplement. And so that falls into, the same category as, stuff like multivitamins and melatonin. There's really no oversight on it. So the problem with that is this: we have some companies that are marketing inferior products that actually don't have CBD, even though they're being sold as CBD products. The FDA did some sampling of hemp CBD oil products, I believe it's 2015 and 2016, and found that quite a lot of them had basically no CBD or only trace amounts of CBD. And then there was just a recent study, I'm kind of looking over at my article here, out of Penn Medicine in Pennsylvania, and they found out that only around 30% of bottles of CBD oil, hemp CBD oil only, contained what was specified on the package. So in other words, 70% of the products were mislabeled in some way. Either they contained more CBD than what the bottle said, or they contained less CBD than what it. So in other words, the bulk of people are not getting what they are paying for, either too much or not enough. So a lot of people.
Is CBD oil kind of like supplements because it's loosely regulated by the FDA? Could they possibly have ingredients in there or fillers in there that they don't necessarily have to label on the bottle? What say you, Donna? Tell us.
I'm guessing that there are probably companies that are doing that are not putting all of the ingredients or are putting ingredients that aren't necessarily in their bottles and that kind of thing. Because it's unregulated, they can pretty much do whatever they want to do. So, I mean, and if anybody has gone and shopped for hemp CBD oil online, they know this stuff is not cheap. I mean, you're looking at usually, $75, $100+ for a bottle, and a bottle might last you, a couple of weeks. So I got ripped off early on by a couple of companies that I was trying to save money, and ended up with a product that basically did absolutely nothing. It's just money in the garbage can. So it's a big deal. I mean, especially you've got chronic pain patients. A lot of them are, on disability or on limited incomes, or they're in my situation where they're paying for so many other treatments. They don't really have extra money to waste and to try a bunch of things. So, I'd written about CBD a couple of times on my blog since I started it. And because of that, I end up getting a lot of emails and comments and messages from people who are asking for recommendations on particular brands and products. And I felt very uncomfortable with that. I mean, I've got one brand. My cat is knocking on the camera. But anyway, I had one brand that seemed to work for me, and so I would tell them about that brand. But that's not really a good solution. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to create an article that kind of spelled out for people, this is what you should look for when you're shopping online. And so that is how the article that we're going to discuss today came to be. So I just kind of wanted to go through some of the things that people should be looking for when they're shopping. Now, this information originated from Martin Lee, who is the founder and director. That's his job title of Project CBD. That website is projectcbd.org, and it's a very, very useful website for people who want to learn about CBD in particular. But he also does some cannabis. Obviously, does some cannabis coverage as well. So I would definitely recommend his website.
I've left that in the comments below too.
Yeah. One of the things that I thought was interesting was this. When I started working on this article, this kind of backstory, I had reached out to various hemp CBD oil companies. I'd reached out to hemp associations, like nonprofit organizations, and that kind of thing. And what was interesting to me is I did not get a single response back. Now, you would think if I'm saying to these companies, look, I'm going to be doing this article on what to look for on hemp CBD oil, you're going to be quoted. It's free advertising for them. So it was a little bit interesting and also suspicious to me that these companies, for whatever reason, they didn't want to talk publicly about their products.
Because if it was something that they would back, you would think that they would jump all over it and want to be out there.
It was free advertising. I mean, and I mean, I don't mean to brag, but the my original CBD oil for fibromyalgia article, I mean, it gets hundreds of Google hits a day. So when people type in CBD oil fibromyalgia, usually it'll direct to that article. So this was this was a good source for them to be in. So I don't know. It was kind of telling to me that they just didn't respond, didn't want to participate. So I was glad that I had to contact with Martin at Project CBD. He's a very neutral source. He doesn't sell any type of products on his website, doesn't recommend any particular products on his website at this point as we're recording. I think he is in a process of maybe trying to change that. Anyway, this is kind of his neutral opinion on what people should be looking for. So one of the things, there's about 5 or 6 different elements people can be looking for. One of the things that he recommended as like top of the list is to always look for an American-made product, because basically we have, compared to other countries, we may have better environmental regulations that are protective of growing certain crops and that kind of thing. He specified don't ever choose a product from China because of China's environmental regulations are so poor. You can get into some problems with that. Now, the reason the environmental regulations are important and the reason he was recommending American-made products is that basically the cannabis plant in general, whether you're talking about hemp or marijuana, it is what's called, let me see, let me get the term, and you know what? All right, I remember the term now. It's called a bioaccumulator. And what that, I'm having some brain fog today, Brandi. Can you tell?
That's okay, because I'm also looking at your article, and right as I found that word, I was like, I can't even say that. And then you found it. I was like, whew, thank goodness.
Yeah. So the cannabis plant is what's called a bioaccumulator. And what that means is it naturally sucks up heavy metals from the soil. So if it's not grown in good, soil, then essentially it sucks up heavy metals from the soil, aluminum, mercury, all of that kind of stuff. Well, that's a bad thing, particularly if you're a fibromyalgia patient and you're already sensitive to damn near anything, like a lot of us are. So, there's a potential there to get the toxins sucked up into the oil, and then you're basically putting those into your body. So,
like you're coating yourself in toxin. Didn't you say in one of your articles that in Chernobyl, they actually planted some hemp plants to absorb those toxins from the ground?
Yeah, yeah, they have hemp grown at Chernobyl, and so that gives you an idea of just how good this plant is at being a bioaccumulator, because they're literally using it to try to clean up the soil at Chernobyl. So yeah, so that's one of the reasons that you want to buy American, is the environmental regulations, and to make sure that it's grown in a safe way. Kind of piggybacking on that, he also recommended trying to find an organic product. So I did a little research on that, and he had initially said that hemp is not included in the US's organic program. But I've since learned that actually hemp is part of the US organic program. So there are companies that can actually get that organic label, official government label. So again, this just kind of goes back to the idea of cannabis being a bioaccumulator. You want it to be grown in good conditions without, pesticides and chemicals and that kind of thing being put on the plant, because of course, once that's all distilled down, you end up taking that in if those kinds of things like pesticides are being used. Let me see. So one of the things, kind of as a cheat. So when I put the article out, I still had people that were really wanting me to do like a list of recommended products. I understand them wanting to do that, because that would make it super, super easy for them. They don't really have to research it. They can just go to the list, go to the company and buy it. But I still felt a little uncomfortable with doing that, because companies change their methods and that kind of thing all the time. So I may say that this particular company meets all of these check marks today, but 6 months from now that might not be the case. And I didn't want to get into the situation where I was constantly having to monitor. And the other thing is, it kind of shows, I don't want to show bias on my end of me recommending certain products, when I don't really have a personal relationship with the company or know exactly what they're doing. So, but for a cheat in the article, Martin had said, quote, "If you punch in CBD hemp organically grown on Google, you'll probably find a few companies from Colorado or maybe Kentucky, and I personally would lean towards those." So that search term, CBD hemp organically grown, if you type that in, he's actually correct. There were several companies that came up that did seem to meet the specifications that he had mapped out. And so I think that's probably an easy way to try to find some of these organically grown American companies that are putting out hemp CBD oil. Another thing he recommended was to look for the terms full spectrum instead of an isolate. So what he's meaning on that is full spectrum means that it has the CBD, plus it has other endocannabinoids to provide those healing properties that we talked about earlier. So it's just a more broad range healing product versus what he called an isolate, which is a product that is just CBD. That's all it is. And we talked previously about the fact that full spectrum products, like I said, they have more of the cannabinoids, they're more healing, they will tend to be a more powerful, more potent product versus doing an isolate. He also warned that if you do an isolate product, an isolate CBD oil product, that those tend to interact with other prescription drugs and that type of thing more than the full spectrum. I don't know that there's really any research on that. It's probably more anecdotal, but that is a little bit of a warning that if you're taking a lot of prescription drugs, he basically said you want to definitely steer clear of those isolates.
And so when you're looking online for CBD oil, will it say on the description if it's a full spectrum or an isolate, or do you specifically have to ask them that?
My experience of going to different CBD oil websites, they pretty much will say, it'll say full spectrum. Like I know Liberty Elixir, I think, says full spectrum. American Shaman CBD which is what I used initially before I got my medical marijuana license. I know their website says full spectrum. So I would definitely look for that keyword, full spectrum. Also, some of them use whole spectrum. That's another keyword that you can look for.
And with looking for those medication interactions, those drug interactions with oil, that goes for really any oil that you put into your body. When I was doing essential oils and I was researching that, one of my friends who takes medication said, just because it's an essential oil and it's natural does not mean that it's completely safe. So she got sick and she researched and she found out there was several different oils that she could not use because they have adverse reactions to her medications. Yeah. So make sure you take, like Donna said, it's a consumer buyer beware type thing. Not consumer buyer beware, a buyer beware type of thing. So just know that even though it's all natural, you still have to take those same precautions that you would for anything else. It's going into your body and onto your body. And I know Donna and I were talking about environmental factors that can lead to a lot of our pain and suffering. So it's good to be aware of that.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I mean, you want a product, he was very clear on this. You want a product that's as natural as it possibly can be. And that kind of goes into the next one on the list, which is avoiding unnecessary ingredients. So, some companies, they end up using what he called thinning agents, and I'll get into that a little bit, flavorings and other ingredients that might be potentially harmful. So what happens is some of the companies are using what they call industrialized hemp from overseas. And particularly, and I think it's in the Eastern European countries. I might be wrong. I know it's European countries. The problem with using those particular products, the way he explained it to me, is that in those countries, they can only grow plants that have a certain level of THC. And in order to grow those plants for the CBD, what ends up happening is you have to grow a lot of plants in order to get a little bit of CBD oil from those plants. What happens at that point is you end up getting this really, really thick, hard to work with, tough, kind of gummy kind of mixture as they're trying to extract the CBD oil. When you get that tar-like mixture going, you end up having to use thinning agents, what they call solvents. And so some of those can be, potentially harmful to the human body. So you kind of want to avoid any companies that are using those kinds of solvents or thinning agents as much as possible. He mentioned flavoring. Now, it's very common on these websites to run up on products that, they flavored, with cinnamon, blueberry, you name it, you can find flavors. And, people, I guess, tend to gravitate towards them, myself included, because you don't want to use a product that's nasty tasting or whatever. And I personally, didn't have a problem with the flavoring issue, but what Martin had said is if it's a really good product, if it's a high quality product, and if it's been refined the right way, there really is no need to put any type of flavoring agents in the product. And he specified that you definitely don't want to use a flavored product if you're going to be vaping it. Because the problem with that is that when you're vaping it, you're putting high heat on those flavoring agents. And he said basically none of those have been approved by the FDA in order to be safe once they are exposed to those high levels of heat. What does that do to the flavoring agents once it's heated up like that? And so I tend to agree with that. I know there are other people that have said, to it may not be a good thing to vape CBD oil because of, we don't really know what happens to the oil itself when it's heated to those kind of high temperatures. So I'm pretty much avoiding vaping any kind of CBD oil. I do occasionally use CBD oil for my dispensary, and I still use it sublingually as an oil under the tongue. It's just kind of the vaping of the CBD is a little bit of a gray area, and there's still a little bit of uncertainty about how safe that is. So he was, kind of warning people against doing that. So I did want to share that.
And we have another question.
Okay.
Wendy asked about getting a prescription or buying from a dispensary in person or online. She lives in Minnesota, and she's not sure if it's legal there. I looked it up, Wendy, and medical marijuana is legalized in Minnesota. As far as the CBD oil, I don't even think providers prescribe CBD oil.
No, it would be very, very difficult to find a doctor that's gonna be that specific, because the doctors are very uncomfortable having the cannabis discussion in general these days. Many are, not all, but many are, because of it being federally legal. So there's some worry that might affect their licensing and that kind of thing. I know here in Delaware, I had to actually go to a special cannabis doctor in order to get my paperwork signed off on so that I could get my license, because none of my local doctors, like my primary care or rheumatologist, would sign the paperwork because they were worried about how that might affect them legally. What we're talking about today, hemp CBD oil, you do not need any kind of type of prescription for it. Literally, you go on Google and find a company and buy it. It's easy to buy. You can, like I said, you can find it in some natural food stores, some convenience stores. Now, for a marijuana-based CBD oil, you're going to need if you live in a state where cannabis is legal recreationally and medicinally, then you can literally just walk into a dispensary and buy it. My cat is determined he's gonna be on TV today.
My cat looks almost exactly like him. And my friend Paul that lives in the UK, who also is a fibromyalgia thriver, also has a black and white cat like that.
Yeah.
He's beautiful though.
But yeah, if you're gonna do a marijuana based CBD, you would go to your dispensary. If you live in a state where it's only medically available, then you would need to go through, your state's process for getting your license so that you can go to the dispensary and buy it. I hope that answers her question. I know.
I am sorry. He looks so funny. He looked like he was about to attack the camera or something.
Yeah, he's being a nutcase today.
He's funny.
A camera hog. All right. So, last couple of things on the list here. He said to be wary of any companies that are making health claims. This was kind of touched on by the FDA over the last couple of years. Basically, because these hemp oils are, like I said, they kind of fall into the same category as supplements and vitamins and that kind of thing. There really is no regulation. But even so, companies are not supposed to be making health claims. Like I have run up on some hemp CBD websites where they made claims that it cured cancer, that it fixed, all types of chronic pain and that kind of thing. And that's a big red flag, because that's a violation of federal law. And so if these websites are doing that, it basically means they don't understand the system. And he mentioned that he would definitely avoid companies that are doing that because it's a violation of law. And then he also said, if you have questions, don't be afraid to reach out to the companies and ask questions, because a good reputable company is going to be there and going to be happy to answer your questions either through phone or email or whatever. They're not going to, try to be secretive about what's in their product, what it does, that kind of thing. So try to look for companies that are happy to interact with their customers. And those were the main things that he pointed out.
So I put the article that Donna was just referencing. It's in the comments below, and I'll share it out again on the Being Fibro Mom page and website. I think when I post this show on Friday, instead of what I usually do is I watch the show and then I write as I'm watching it and listening, I'll type it all up. But really everything that Donna has gone over today is in her article. So I think I'm just going to post the video on the website and then post this link to her website, because in that, what I really like about your articles, Donna, is that when you talk about a study, you link to it. Mm-hmm. When you talk about findings, you link to it. And I'm just looking over your article. And this is why when I get on your site, I'm in a rabbit hole, because I find something and then it links to something else that I need to know about. And I really don't have to leave your site to be able to get all the information I need. This article has all the information that I think you would need. There might be some more questions, but I think all that's going to be covered.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to cover, because I know we're headed towards wrapping up, but one thing I did want to cover is legality, because I know that's kind of still up in the air. And the truth of the matter is, so if we're talking about a marijuana-based CBD oil that you would buy at a dispensary, that is, considered to be the good stuff, that no matter where you go, that's considered to be federally illegal. It comes from the cannabis plant. The DEA says that cannabis is a Schedule I drug, so anything derived from the cannabis plant is considered to be illegal. That obviously we have state legalization, but at the end of the day, in the U.S., it's still illegal federally. There is a huge gray area when it comes to hemp CBD oil, and there's actually debate over whether it is illegal. So the DEA, according to the DEA, they say that hemp CBD oil is illegal. Their argument is that it originates from the cannabis plant, and since it is part of the cannabis plant, therefore it falls under being a Schedule I drug. There's probably going to be a lot of people that are going to argue with me on that, because most of these hemp CBD oil companies that are selling the products online, it's very common to have them say, legal in all 50 states. But if you get down to the nitty gritty, and if you, because I've actually reached out to the DEA and interviewed people from the DEA on this subject, they consider it to be federally illegal. The hemp industry, they argue that no, it is not illegal. Apparently there was a court case a few years back that basically said hemp products, because they only contain very minute trace amounts of THC, that therefore a hemp CBD oil product does not fall under the Schedule I designation of the U.S. federal government. And I believe it was kind of towards the fall of last year that the DEA actually put out a special announcement basically saying that hemp CBD oil products are illegal. And at that point, one of the hemp associations filed a lawsuit against the DEA, saying that, obviously they're infringing on their right to sell products and that kind of thing. Now, as far as I know, nothing's been decided in that court case yet, but the hemp industry, the last I heard, was fighting that statement made by the DEA last year. In the meantime, you can still buy it online. It's still legal in all 50 states, according to those companies. But I did want to let people know that it is a gray area, and if someone is concerned about that, I wanted to share that information. Technically, it is illegal.
Okay, and we have another question. Wendy wants to know how you can find a doctor willing to give a medical card. She's having trouble finding one right now. What do you recommend?
A couple of different things. So here in Delaware, I went through a doctor's office called Canna Care Docs, and I'll try to remember to put that Canna Care. I'm making a note so I remember it. But it's let me see if I can spell it for. It's CANNA, so Canna like cannabis, Canna Care, CARE. docs.com, cannacaredocs.com. Now, cannacaredocs.com, they have, that's right, you nailed it. So, so they have offices all over the country in states where there are legalization laws for cannabis, and that's all they do. They basically have a couple of doctors in each office, and you make an appointment and you take your medical records, and they will look at your medical records and do an exam of you, and then they will fill out your paperwork for you. The downside on that is it's a little expensive. Well, it's not just a little expensive, it's a lot expensive. Like for instance, my appointment here in Delaware, initial consultation was like $200. So, and of course, you know, your insurance doesn't pay for that. That's out of pocket. So like here in Delaware, it was $200 for the doctor's appointment, plus you had to pay the $125 or $135 for the actual state application. And that was before you even stepped foot in the dispensary. So that's an option. I would see if Canna Care Docs has a location in her area, in her state. The other option is I would maybe go to an organization like Normal. And let me see if I can pull that up real quick to make sure I've got the spelling right. So Normal is NORML.org. And that organization, they may be able to give you a referral to a local doctor who is more cannabis friendly. I can't guarantee it, but if anybody would know, the local chapters of Normal would probably know. You could also try Googling your state name plus cannabis advocacy organization or cannabis nonprofit in your state name. Some combination of those terms. See if you've got a local group that advocates for the legalization of cannabis, and I can assure you that the board members or the members of those groups are going to know if there are any doctors that are cannabis friendly in your state. So that's a couple of different avenues there. Hopefully, that some of those will help.
That's really helpful. Thank you for giving us those links.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you wanted to add?
I'm trying to think. I don't think so. Was there anything else you can think of?
No, that pretty much covered it all for me. Yeah, I can't think of anything else because as I was thinking of them, I was asking them. If you have any other questions after the show, though, feel free to keep commenting on this video, and Donna and I will both be answering those and kind of monitoring any comments. So if you don't have anything else, we'll just go ahead and wrap this show up for today. And thank you to everyone that has watched this show, whether it be live or a later viewing of it. If you find this video helpful, I encourage you to please share it out. The more that we know about all the treatment options that are available for chronic pain, the more healing that we can give. And, you know, a lot of people may not even know that CBD oil exists. I was just talking to someone this past weekend that had no idea about CBD oil. They knew about marijuana, but they didn't know about CBD oil. So it's just getting that information out there. So thanks again. Thanks, Donna, for joining us again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's you know, one of the final words on CBD. You know, I would just say that it's a good option for people to try if they are, you know, wary of trying, you know, traditional cannabis because they don't want the high or whatever. You know, I can't guarantee that it's going to work for everybody because, like I said in the beginning, it works for some people and not for others. But you know, it's just something to try. And it's an alternative, especially in light of, what's going on with the opioid epidemic right now. People need options, and so hopefully with the article and Martin's information, people can find a good product and try it and maybe get some relief. I was also going to ask the original CBD fibromyalgia article that I wrote for fedupwithfatigue.com. It would probably be good to link that in the comments too, because that covers a lot of the basics, just what is it, how it works, what the research says, legality, that kind of thing. So that might be useful for people as well.
I think I put that on there.
Okay, good.
The one that says CBD oil and fibromyalgia.
Yeah, what you need to know about CBD oil and fibromyalgia.
Yes,
name of the
I linked that in the comments as well.
Good deal.
And I'll include that in the post about this on Friday. I'll include that as well, because that's a really good article that sparked a lot of questions for me.
Yeah, that was the original one that kind of made me a so-called expert on this.
But you also have updates to it. So, I mean, I can see now you updated it 3 times since you've written this article. So it's not like you just put that out there and just left it.
Yeah, I go back every few months and check it and make sure everything is still accurate, and add any additional information in it that's, because I know the legality situation has changed several times since I wrote that post in 2006, 15, 16. I'm not real sure what year it was, but
15.
Yeah. So anyway, it's an option. It's something that we still have access to, thankfully, and thankfully that's not gonna change, despite the DEA seeming like they want to have an opinion now.
Yeah, of course. And I know when I get off this this video, I have a lot of questions for you, because I've been writing down questions, but it didn't have to do with CBD oil, so I've held off on it.
All right.
Thanks again for watching. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye, everyone.